We are driving down the 583 in the direction of Blackpool, and shortly we will be turning right into Plumpton Lane to travel down to the parish church in Weeton. We are doing a story about Weeton ghosts and hauntings at the Eagle Public House, formerly known as the Eagle and Child in Weeton itself, and in other local places. We are still on the A583, and to the right of where we are can be seen the Westby Reservoir, which is the green mound to the right of the road. This reservoir supplies much of the drinking water to the area, and can also be seen in the footage of the Cessna 172 flying overhead and towards it. We have now just turned right onto Plumpton Lane, which will eventually take us down onto Church Road and to Weeton Parish Church, St. Michael's. Weeton boasts its own saint. The Blessed William Harcourt was born in the village circa 1609. He joined the Society of Jesus, trained in Rome and worked in the London area. He was martyred at Tyburn in 1679 with other priests, a victim of the rumours of a popish plot started by Titus Oates. There is a beautiful stained glass window commemorating his life in the local Roman Catholic Church of St. Anne at Westby Mill. St. Michael's Church was built in 1843 on land granted by the 13th Earl of Derby. Fun St. Michael's was designated a Grade II listed building by English Heritage in 1986. The Grade II listing is for buildings that are nationally important and of special interest. St. Michael's is constructed in the early English style, of red brick with stone dressings. The roof is slate. At the west end of the building there is a bell cote with a miniature spire. The plan consists of a nave and a chancel. To the north of the nave is a porch at the main entrance, and to the south of the chancel is a vestry. There are coupled lancet windows and a triple lancet window in the west wall. Internally, the roof's timber structure includes strutted king posts and arched braces. The nave has 4 bays and the chancel 1. The church furniture includes a wooden pulpit, a matching minister's desk, and original wooden pews which have doors, erected by the servants employed on his North Lancashire estates 1893. There is a small square organ by T&C Lane of Earl Shilton, Leicestershire. The school adjacent to the church was built in 1886 and remains relatively unchanged and thriving today. Unlike Esbrick School, which opened in 1857 but sadly closed owing to falling rolls in 1975. St. Michael's Church is an Anglican church in the village of Weeton, Lancashire, England. It is an active parish church in the Diocese of Blackburn. It was built in 1843 and enlarged in 1846. It has been designated a Grade II listed building by English Heritage. Our parish consists of the villages of Weeton with Preece, Westby with Plumptons, and Greenhalch with Thistleton. One of the loveliest parts of the Fylde, just a few miles from the market town of Kirkham, the city of Preston, and many coastal resorts, Blackpool being the major one, and smaller, quieter resorts of Lytham St. Anne's and Fleetwood. At the time of the Domesday Book, there were 300 acres of arable land Weeton. The history of Weeton with Preece has been closely linked with the small neighbouring villages of Esbrick, Greenhalch with Thistleton and Great and Little Plumpton, which today form one parish. The graveyard contains the war graves of 2 British Army soldiers of World War I and an airman of World War II. Here is the grave of Private D. Dagger. He was with the Royal North Lancashire Regiment and was killed in action on October 25, 1918, aged 38. He was the son of James and Catherine Dagger of Weeton, husband of Grace Dagger of 4 Lane Ends Farm, Weeton. Preston Lancs. There are also the following: Private H. Moon Service Number 3071 Royal Welsh Fusiliers, who died on 24 March 1920. Reginald James Greathead Service Number 1397967 Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve, who died on 4 February 1942. In the centre of the village is the Triangular Green, where for many years Weeton Fair took place on Trinity Monday, said to have been the largest cattle fair in the Fylde. The local housewives made and sold Weeton Fair cakes, a kind of shortbread containing caraway seeds and beer. The recipe for these is now known only to Mrs. Mary Smith, whose grandfather kept the Eagle and Child Inn. Here is the Eagle and Child in Victorian times, when a pint was probably about 1 penny. This is the Eagle and Child in circa 1935, take place many years ago. But until the early 1960s, a farmer walked a cow from Inglewhite on Fair Day and stood on the green to maintain the charter. Candlemas Day, 2nd February, was the start of the annual holiday for farm workers and was also hiring day when servants were hired. Out for the following year, rents to the Derby estate were paid annually. On rent day, 2 halberds, still to be seen in the Eagle and Child, were set up, tied with blue ribbons, outside the inn door. A jury known as the Court Leet was also appointed on rent day, the members of which had to go out and inspect all dykes and watercourses during the first week in November. A dinner was provided for all tenants and members of the Court Leet. The week before Easter was pace-egging time, when young men and women dressed up as various characters blackened their faces and visited the houses in the village, singing the pace-egging song. They were given gifts of eggs, beer, or money. Perhaps the best-known village character today is Mrs. Mary Smith, who used to keep the village shop. As with many other places, there are a number of theories as to how Weeton, just east of Blackpool, came by its name. One is that it could have been Willow Town, because of the willows that grew on the moss. In fact, when the digging was done for the M55 motorway, hundreds of bundles of osiers were found near Weeton. Certainly its origins go back to pre-Roman times. Bronze Age and Roman axe heads and coins have been found, some quite recently at Stanley House Farm. The Boteler family held Weeton from 1249 to 1673, when it passed to the Earl of Derby, through the marriage of Thomas Butler's daughter Elizabeth to the Earl's son. It remained part of the Derby estate for many years, the Earl granting land for the Church of St. Michael, which was built in 1842. Following its busy and interesting past, Weeton maintains a lively community spirit, though the population is smaller than it was, and many of the original buildings have disappeared. It has a recently renovated village hall and a croft used as a children's playground. Though the population is smaller than it was, and many of the original buildings have disappeared. Here you can see an elevated aerial view of the Eagle. The centuries-old Eagle and Child Inn at Weeton was badly damaged in 1962 when fire swept through the 60-foot-long thatched roof. 20 firemen and 3 engines from Wesham and St Anne's fought the blaze. A fireman, Sub-Officer John Haydock, aged 45, of Allendale South Shore from St Anne's Fire Brigade, was taken to Victoria Hospital with an ankle injury after he fell 20 feet onto a flat roof behind the inn. He was tackling the blaze from an aluminium ladder when part of a brick gable end collapsed, and he dropped onto the flat roof. Other firemen carried him to safety. The outbreak was spotted by a woman passerby at about 10:45 a.m. She shouted to Mr. Edward Dunn of Huyton, Liverpool, who was delivering beer from a lorry. He rushed in and shouted to the cellarman, who phoned the fire brigade. The landlord, Mr. John Ridley, who had been out, returned LNHLS van and began organizing a chain of buckets of water to the rooftop blaze. He clambered onto a flat roof behind the inn and threw the water onto the blazing thatch as the buckets were passed up by members of the staff. They were still tackling the outbreak when Wesham Fire Brigade arrived, badly charred. The fire is believed to have started around a chimney on the north end of the inn. A flood brigade spokesman said that it looked as though it had been smouldering for some time as the thick attic beams were badly charred. Despite the efforts of the firemen, the fire quickly caught hold of other parts of the roof, and at the height of the blaze, some 30 to 40 feet, it was on flurry. Clouds of smoke billowed across the village, and the pall could be seen several miles away over the filled countryside. Mr. Ridley, members of the staff and villagers, ignored the flames and smoke to rescue furniture and clothing from the upstairs rooms. A downstairs door had to be forced before big pieces of furniture could be salvaged by teams of helpers. Mattresses, bedding and clothing were passed out through upstairs windows and thrown into the arms of waiting helpers. Like waterfall staff also carried to safety bar stocks and furnishings from the downstairs bar and Elving accommodation. Fireman falls. 2 firemen are seen on the gable end before one of them, Sub-Officer John Haydock, fell as brickwork gave way under him. 2 hospital. Sub-Officer Haydock is helped into the ambulance which was called for him after his fall.
Built in 1585, the Eagle, until recently the Eagle and Child in Weeton, is one of the oldest public houses in Lancashire and steeped in history. It was reputedly a hiding place for Oliver Cromwell during the Civil War, with secret passages apparently running from the cellar.
The Eagle and Child is also said to be haunted by a spectre, known by the locals as Bleeding Ears Murph. There is some speculation that Murph is the ghost of a highwayman who fled the authorities in London and came to Weeton to hide, perhaps seeking refuge in the secret tunnels in the pub cellar. This would make sense as, whilst Murph is rarely seen, it is said he can often be heard muttering at night when the bar is empty.
One licensee was closing up one night when he heard someone moving about, but no answer when he shouted out.
Then he heard footsteps, and a tall, soldierly man with white side whiskers marched past him and right through the locked door. His description was recognized by some locals as a sergeant from the local army camp who used to frequent the inn. Another reported ghost is the white lady who walks the upstairs hallway. It is not known who she may be, but being the residential part of the building, she may be a former resident or guest. So should you ever visit Weeton's Eagle, think twice before ordering a white lady. The pub had a long-standing reputation, with reports of objects moving and glasses being thrown, until landlady Linda Roach decided to bring in investigators. The team attempted Ouija, and the first response came from a young girl called Emily, who died several hundred years ago and could not spell. Then a woman called Betty came through, who claimed to be looking after the girl. Before the glass moved wildly, which the team interpreted as ghost speak for wanting to be left alone. The village claims to have the oldest ghost in the field, the hairy boggart of Weeton. The boggart has been known to appear in the form of a calf, and sometimes to transform into a hairy-legged pan-like being. I recently spoke to a member of staff who told me of that one of the regulars was once asked politely to drink up, as it was closing time and he was the only customer left in the pub. Finishing his pint, the customer remarked that actually, he wasn't the only customer, as he had just seen a man walk into the gents' toilet. The bar staff waited patiently for the second man to emerge. He never did, and when they eventually went in to check, the toilet was empty. Wander down Greenhalch Lane at midnight at the time of the full moon, you may see a coffin glide across the road to a pit in the corner of field. In the form of a cloaked figure has appeared in the middle bedroom of Manor Farm at Greenhalch, and has been seen by 3 members of the family on separate occasions. Ghosts are generally described as solitary, human-like essences, though stories of ghostly armies and the ghosts of animals other than humans have also been recounted. They are believed to haunt particular locations, objects, or people they were associated with in life. Ghosts are described in many ways, from being invisible to lifelike. They may appear as shadowy, wispy, or translucent figures. In folklore, a ghost is the soul or spirit of a dead person or non-human animal that is believed by some people to be able to appear to the living. In ghost lore, descriptions of ghosts vary widely, from an invisible presence to translucent or barely visible wispy shapes to realistic, lifelike forms. There is evidence that human beings may be evolutionarily predisposed to see ghosts and other paranormal presences. And if you have ever seen one yourself, you have something in common with 18% of Americans. That then concludes our visit to Weeton, its accompanying spooky haunted pub, the Eagle, and our visit to the Weeton churchyard. Just to say thank you for watching, and we hope that you found it interesting, and we will be back soon with another similar story. Please remember to like and subscribe. Your comments will be very welcome.